A woman who always attracts the best men doesn't wait for someone to recognize her value. She already knows it. Her confidence isn't loud or performative. It's a quiet, steady flame that doesn't flicker with the opinions or actions of others. She doesn't shrink to fit into someone else's mold or try to become who she thinks a man wants. Instead, she leads with authenticity, showing up as her full self, unapologetically, fearlessly, and with intention. She understands that self-worth is the foundation for any meaningful connection, and because she honors herself first, others are naturally drawn to honor her as well. This kind of woman doesn't settle for attention when she deserves devotion. She doesn't get swept away by charm or surface-level attraction. Instead, she observes, she listens, and she evaluates. She asks, does this man align with the life I'm building? Not, how can I make him stay? That subtle shift in perspective changes everything. She doesn't beg for love or twist herself to be chosen. Why? Because she has already chosen herself. And when a woman is rooted in her worth, she doesn't need to chase love. It flows to her because she becomes a magnet for the kind of man who sees, respects, and rises to meet her standard. Knowing her worth also means she understands the power of her time, her energy, and her presence. She isn't available to everyone. And that's not arrogance, it's alignment. She protects her peace and guards her emotional space like the sacred ground it is. She's not interested in proving her worthiness. She embodies it. That energy alone filters out anyone who's not serious, not ready, or not capable of meeting her where she is. She doesn't have to explain her standards. They're evident in how she lives, how she walks into a room, and how she carries herself even in silence. This self-assured woman also recognizes that love is not something she needs to earn, it's something she allows in. She isn't attached to the outcome of a relationship. If a man isn't the one, she lets go without drama or desperation. She understands that rejection isn't a reflection of her value, but redirection towards something more aligned. That emotional maturity is what sets her apart. She's not afraid to walk away, not because she doesn't feel, but because she refuses to stay where love is not freely, deeply, and consistently given. When you live from a place of deep self-worth, you stop entertaining confusion. You don't negotiate your standards or second-guess your intuition. You create space for love that's true, love that's strong, and love that's mutual. And that's exactly why the best men who are emotionally available, purpose-driven, and grounded, gravitate toward her. Because she doesn't just want a partner. She wants a purpose-aligned, heart-centered connection, and she won't settle for anything less. Because when you are the shift, the right man doesn't complete you. He complements the masterpiece you already are. Women who always get the best men don't live for validation. They live for vision. They aren't chasing attention. They're chasing purpose. You won't find them obsessing over text replies or wasting energy decoding mixed signals. Why? Because they're already deeply engaged in something bigger than a relationship. Their time is invested in growth, impact, and alignment with who they are becoming. That energy is powerful. It creates a gravitational pull that naturally attracts men who are also rooted in purpose, not ego. When a woman is aligned with her purpose, she becomes magnetic without even trying. There's a glow to her, a confidence that comes from knowing she's not waiting for life to happen. She's actively building it. She walks into a room and doesn't need the room to affirm her value. She brings the value with her. And this kind of inner fulfillment changes everything. It makes her less reactive and more intentional. She doesn't chase after fleeting affection because she's already fulfilled from within. She doesn't confuse intensity for intimacy or attention for affection. Purpose-driven women don't compromise their mission just to be liked. They aren't afraid to say no, to walk away, or to start over. They're not easily impressed by surface-level charm because they're looking for something deeper. Alignment in values, vision, and lifestyle. They're not intimidated by a strong man, nor do they try to overpower him. They recognize that true partnership is not about control, it's about co-creation. And because they are already in a committed relationship with themselves, their growth, their future, they're not emotionally available for anything that threatens to take them off that path. These women don't confuse being busy with being purposeful. Their days are filled with intention, not distraction. They read, they create, they invest in their mind and soul. They're not performing for the world, they're becoming for themselves. And it's that quiet confidence, that sacred connection to something greater than themselves that draws high-value men in. Because the best men aren't looking to be the center of your world. They want to add to a world that's already rich, meaningful, and alive. When a woman is living with purpose, she's grounded. She doesn't spiral into anxiety when things don't go as planned. She's resilient, adaptable, and clear on what truly matters. And she wants a partner who's walking in the same direction, not someone she has to drag or fix. She knows her time is sacred, and she only shares it with someone who respects it. The truth is, the more a woman aligns with her higher purpose, the less she tolerates things that don't align with her higher self. And that clarity, that energetic elevation, it's what sets her apart, and it's exactly why she consistently attracts the kind of man who doesn't just see her, he values her, chooses her, and rises with her. Women who consistently attract the best men don't play emotional chess. They lead with clarity, not confusion. They know that communication isn't just about expressing needs, but also about revealing standards. These women don't threaten or manipulate to get what they want. They own their expectations with calm, grounded presence. They don't speak to control outcomes. They speak to build connection, to invite alignment, and to filter what's not meant for them. And that's what makes them powerful in relationships. They don't demand loyalty. They inspire it through emotional intelligence. There's a quiet strength in a woman who knows how to speak from self-respect instead of fear. She doesn't use silence as punishment, nor does she explode with emotion just to be heard. She's not afraid of difficult conversations because she's not afraid of the truth. She communicates from her center, not her wounds. When something feels off, she doesn't lash out. She leans in, asks questions, and seeks understanding. If she's being misunderstood, she calmly clarifies, not to beg for love, but to ensure mutual respect. And if she notices patterns of disregard, she doesn't over-explain herself, she removes herself. These women understand the power of tone, timing, and truth. They don't give ultimatums. Instead, they draw clear lines in the sand and stand by them, not with rage, but with rootedness. There's no need to scream when your standards are non-negotiable. And the best men, emotionally available, self-aware, grounded men, don't run from this clarity. They're drawn to it. Because a woman who communicates clearly signals maturity, self-awareness, and self-worth. She becomes a safe space, not a storm to navigate. They've learned the difference between expressing feelings and weaponizing them. They don't expect their partners to read minds or decode signals. They don't hide behind passive aggressiveness or hope that love is proven through guesswork. They say what they mean, and they mean what they say. This doesn't mean they're rigid or cold. It means they're emotionally responsible. They understand that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's direction. It's guidance. It's giving a man the roadmap to love them well instead of leaving him to wander in the dark. And when they meet a man who can't meet that level of honesty or presence, they don't take it personally. They don't lower the bar. They keep it where it belongs and let the wrong ones fall away. Because they know that peace doesn't come from controlling a relationship. It comes from staying true to yourself inside of it. When a woman speaks from her truth with grace and consistency, she naturally filters out men who aren't ready for that level of connection. And in doing so, she makes space for the kind of man who doesn't just listen to her words, he respects them, acts on them, and feels honored to love her right. There's a deep, undeniable power in a woman who understands the balance between her feminine and masculine energy. She knows when to stand firm and when to soften. She doesn't try to be the man in the relationship, but she also doesn't lose herself trying to be the perfect woman either. She simply honors all of who she is. That harmony within her creates a space for polarity to flourish, where masculine energy feels safe to rise, lead, and protect, not out of dominance, but out of deep mutual respect. This kind of woman doesn't view surrender as weakness. She knows it takes far more strength to trust, to open, and to allow. But that trust doesn't come from naivety, it comes from discernment. She's already done the inner work to become emotionally sovereign, so she doesn't lean on a man to feel whole. She can hold herself, and because of that, she can also hold space for a strong, grounded man to lead beside her. She's not threatened by his power. She welcomes it because she knows hers isn't being dimmed in the process, it's being mirrored. She leads in her own life, she makes decisions, builds dreams, and takes action when needed, but she also knows that true intimacy isn't built on control, it's built on connection. And she's learned to let go of the need to control every outcome, especially in love. Instead, she practices flow. She allows herself to receive without guilt, to lean back without fear, and to feel without shutting down. Her feminine energy isn't performance, it's presence. And that softness, that receptivity, doesn't make her any less powerful. It makes her magnetic. At the same time, she's not afraid to access her masculine energy when boundaries need to be set, when vision needs direction, or when leadership is required. But she doesn't live there. She doesn't stay in hustle or hardness. She knows how to transition from doing into being, from achieving into allowing. That's the real shift. Learning how to integrate both energies rather than over-identify with one. And that integration is what allows her to create space for a relationship where both partners feel empowered, supported, and fully seen. When she shows up in that balanced energy, she attracts men who are also emotionally balanced. Not boys in grown men's bodies, but men who aren't intimidated by power, grace, or depth. She doesn't need to dominate to feel secure, and he doesn't need to diminish her to feel strong. There's mutual reverence. They grow together not in competition, but in complement. That's why she stands out. While others are fighting for control, she's co-creating from alignment. And that energy doesn't just attract the best men, it creates relationships built on trust, polarity, passion, and purpose. One of the most important distinctions women who attract the best men have made is this: they choose partners, not projects. They no longer fall in love with potential. They've learned, often the hard way, that you can't build a relationship on who someone could be if you have to drag them toward growth. These women don't ignore red flags because they're caught up in a fantasy. They don't cling to what's missing and call it love. Instead, they pay close attention to how a man shows up, not just what he says, but what he does. Consistently. There's a grounded wisdom in a woman who's done healing work. She no longer mistakes chaos for passion. She's not addicted to emotional roller coasters. She's not trying to rescue, fix, or prove herself worthy of love by staying in a situation that drains her. She sees a man's actions clearly. If he lacks emotional maturity, accountability, or direction, she doesn't make excuses. She makes decisions. Because she understands that love is not built on potential, it's built on partnership. And a true partner doesn't need to be convinced to grow. He's already committed to evolving just like she is. These women have retired from the role of emotional life coach. They're not trying to raise a man or guide him into manhood. They've stepped out of relationships that required them to mother someone who should have already been leading himself. Instead of staying in situations where they feel unseen, unheard, or unsupported, they choose peace. They'd rather wait for someone who's aligned than settle for someone who's not ready. What makes them magnetic to high-quality men is their clarity. They know what emotional availability looks like. They don't fall for charm alone. They look for consistency. They don't get caught in cycles of false hope. They ask the hard questions early on. Is he capable of communication? Does he take responsibility for his life? Can he hold space for someone else's emotions without deflecting or shutting down? If the answer is no, they don't argue with reality, they move on. They don't operate from scarcity. They trust that aligned love exists, and because of that belief, they don't settle out of loneliness or fear. They don't measure their worth by someone's willingness to commit. They know they are worthy, and they trust that the man who is truly ready won't need convincing. He'll recognize her value and match her energy with presence, devotion, and maturity. Choosing a partner over a project means choosing long-term peace over temporary validation. It means saying no to emotional labor that isn't yours to carry. It means choosing someone who's already standing in his power, not waiting for someone to hand it to him. And when a woman lives by that standard, she doesn't just attract love, she attracts a man who's capable of building something real, stable, and extraordinary with her. Women who always attract the best men understand one foundational truth. You don't get the love you want. You get the love you are. They no longer sit around waiting for someone to come along and pour into them what they haven't first poured into themselves. Instead, they become the very thing they seek. They are the love. They embody it in how they speak, how they show up, how they treat themselves, and how they treat others. They don't expect a relationship to fix them. They expect it to reflect what they've already built within. This kind of woman doesn't chase the feeling of being loved, she creates it. She wakes up every day choosing herself. That doesn't mean she's self-obsessed or emotionally closed off. It means she's centered. She fills her own cup so that love overflows, not leaks. Her joy isn't dependent on someone else's validation. Her peace isn't built on another person's promises. She has cultivated a relationship with herself that's so strong, so real, and so rooted in self-respect that she no longer seeks someone to complete her, only someone who can complement her journey. Because of that deep internal alignment, she doesn't tolerate love that's half-hearted or inconsistent. She doesn't ignore red flags in the name of hope or get swept up in emotional highs and lows just to feel something. She's learned that real love feels like stability, not adrenaline. It feels like truth, not confusion. And so the way she moves is different. She doesn't entertain situationships. She doesn't audition for love. She doesn't shrink or bend herself to be chosen. She simply stands in her light, and the right man recognizes it. The energy she carries becomes her filter. She no longer tries to convince someone of her worth because her very presence communicates it. Her standards are no longer words, they are lived. She respects her time, guards her peace, and chooses joy over drama every single time. That inner alignment makes her radiant. It's not about her looks, her status, or her background. It's about her frequency, what she exudes. That is what the best men are drawn to, because those men have also done their inner work. They are not looking for someone to save or fix. They are looking for someone to build with. And this woman, she's ready for that. When she becomes the love she once hoped to receive, her entire world shifts. She no longer moves from lack, she moves from overflow. She's not looking for a man to give her life meaning. She's looking for a man who adds value to a life already rich in purpose. And when the right man enters her life, it's not to rescue her or complete her, it's to rise with her, love her deeply, and walk beside her in alignment and truth.